Hello and welcome to this webinar. My name is Bram Verniest. I'm co-founder and Chief Evangelist at Chili Publish, and later on we'll also welcome Thomas from CanDesign at this webinar. Today we're going to talk about how creative automation works at scale. Let me start with a story. Imagine that you walk around in Times Square. As you know, there's a lot of ads in Times Square. Digital billboards, printed ads, but also ads on your phone. All these ads have been created by somebody, and there's a lot of them. The ad you might see on your Facebook is like the same ad you see on a digital billboard. And the one that is printed might also be for the same campaign. All these ads need to be created. There's steps from the creative brief until the output of the variations. There's a creative briefing, then there's a creative process of making it, writing it, copywriting it. There's initial versioning. There's a review and approval process. Then you upload that to your DAM system. Somebody will download it to make a variation, to make a language variation. There might be some regionalization. For example, there's versions in English and in German and in Dutch and in French. And then again, there's a review process. And then you can start with creating all these ads up to the final delivery. Creative automation is the process where you shorten that cycle and you eliminate a lot of these steps. But of course, keeping the creative output as you have it today. There will still be creative brief, there will still be creative people involved, but you will start from a template that is smart in itself to allow a lot of variations and regional variations before you create the output. And the creative automation process is how you can reduce these steps, but have the same output, so gain time in there. For example, the American Cancer Society reduced their production hours from 2017 from 400 editable PDFs and now only use 7 smart templates. So they invested a lot in some templates and now they can produce the same output with a very little amount of templates. And to sum it up, how you can automate graphic production based on data that fits within your current MarTech stack, that is what we do. Chili Publish is the engine in between your PIM system, your DAM system, your CMS system, and so on. We allow people to create smart templates, and these templates will then produce all the variations that are necessary for your campaign. Of course, not every use case will give the same return. The best use case will be when you have a lot of SKUs, so stock keeping units, and a lot of point of sales, because then you might have a lot of variations in your output. And the best case we do that is if you're a brand, if you're an agency, if you're a printer, because then indeed you're involved in that creative automation process. But I can talk a lot about the theory, but I think now it's time to bring in Thomas again. Thomas as one of our partners of CanDesign, and let's have a chat about one case that we did together and take it from there. So, hi Thomas.
Hi Bram.
Welcome back.
Thank you again for having me.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. Maybe have a short introduction. Who is Thomas? Who is CanDesign?
Yeah, sure. So, Thomas Brouns, I am the product owner custom projects at CAN. That means we help with customization and automation for different clients. And CAN is from heart a branding agency, and we kind of evolved in a level more than that. So not only branding and design, but also, like I just said, the next steps around that, integration, automation, and definitely Chili Publish with that.
Today we're going to talk about how creative automation works at scale. And you helped a lot of our customers at scale because some of these customers are huge. There's this one use case. It's a big retail brand in worldwide brand. Yeah. It's a beverage producer. The goal is today to sketch like a picture of how that works. How if there are people in the audience that say, look, we are a big brand, we are in retail, and we need to automate the creative output. Where does that work? How do people come across with you, and what would be then the first steps in that process?
Most of the time, it starts already with the company itself that sees that there's possibility for automation, that they get an idea, okay, this is how we currently work, but we know there's more than that, and they start looking around. And then through the different things that either Chili Publish does or any partners that we have or as Canon itself, eventually we meet up. And the very first phase is to see what the current issue is or their current ID, and then dive into that and see what we can help them with. What would be any next steps that would benefit them?
But then I can imagine that they already thought about that they have a problem.
Yeah.
What would be a good indicator for them to realize that they need to look for solutions? Is it like indicators that say, look, if you are in that situation, you have X amount of templates, I would say, because that is are there like indicators that you say these are good to
Yeah, definitely. A big output with a lot of manual work, but also a lot of manual work that's repetitive. So a lot of things that people just need to make small adjustments or big adjustment, doesn't matter that much, but within the same frame a lot of the times. It doesn't need to be the same necessary output because it can be a lot of different outputs, but in the same basic structure, that is a good founding to look at automation. That's a good foundation for that.
And you say a lot. Can you give like an example of the retailer with the beverages? Do you have like an indication in what quantitative order we are talking about?
They started smaller as a use case. So it started with just 100 templates. Now there are more than a couple of thousand templates on that platform.
Yeah.
And that output goes into the 100,000s. It's a couple of hundreds output for some of the templates.
So they used to have a couple of 100,000 files to produce all these outputs. And now you help them to reduce that to a couple of thousands, but still produce the same amount of output.
Yeah, and a big thing for a lot of those brands is localization. So the designs are scattered throughout, or the files itself, or the progress around it is scattered around a lot of different agencies. Most of the time it's not located at one agency, it's a lot of different agencies. But if you think about that globally, it's a lot of an issue that you don't have control over those files, over that output. You want to make sure that you can harmonize it and that you can have it all in one place, because we have a lot of clients that they just still have their design files with a designer at a local hard drive.
Yeah.
In this time, you cannot imagine that anymore, because if something goes wrong, you don't have anything anymore.
And so the benefit of doing the creative automation process would be then that you centralize all these templates, you can guard the brands, but still allow some flexibility for the local teams.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that we also talked about before, is that a lot of agencies think that work for big brands are a little bit scared of automation because they think they will lose work. Yeah. But what we did also, especially for these big brands, is we help them and train with how we build those first set of templates. We educate them in how to do this. So specifically give them the knowledge on the things that the workflow that we built, and so that they can do it in the future more for that client and for that brand. So they don't only make the first design, and they now also can build a smart template. So instead of just doing the repetitive tasks constantly, that we know that also a lot of designers just aren't that happy with. Most of the designers just like to make a new design, but don't want to make 100 examples after that. And now they just can create a smart template of that design when it's approved, and those new SKUs will just automatically come out of that.
How do you make such a template smart? What is the smart element in there?
It can be pretty straightforward, or it can be really complex. The most straightforward way is that you want to guard your brand and the design that you made. So an end user can change the title, can change a logo, can change color, or a background image.
Yeah.
Normally, already now they need to go back to the designer and say, okay, I have a new idea, or this is for a new campaign. Can you please change this image? Can you use that logo? It's for that part. So that's something that we all take out. And now within anything that has been structured before, and that you as a designer, as a template developer, allow the end user to use. So it's always within those guidelines. So you're 100% sure that your brand gets guarded and that the output is exactly like you imagined it. That's what we want. And those small adjustments already create a huge output.
And so the person creating these smart templates then logs down and enforces the brand guidelines, but still allows the flexibility in the file, the localization, the translation, and so on.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard you talking about somebody briefing somebody else about use this file, use this, so that there's also a lot of communication involved there.
Yeah.
Is that also something that can be optimized?
Definitely, because with this automation, most of the time we're also talking about an online platform that Chile and another partner or other programs got integrated to. So everything is in a central point. Before, and I think a lot of people underestimate that, is also the cost and the time around designing.
Yeah.
A lot of time on emails, project management, back and forth on the design, on images, approvals, fonts, even font licensing, all those things. It's a huge amount of time, not only on cost to get everything together, but also to just communicate around it.
And it's also a hidden cost, because in it, like font licensing, communication, approvals, that's all part. You get something in the mailbox. That's all costs of small pieces of time that get lost in the bigger picture.
Or have multiple licensing of the same fonts. It's a simple example, but we see with a lot of, if it's a global brand and it's kind of scattered around the world, you have a lot of font licensing just multiple times, not because it's necessary, but just because some other agency doesn't know that the other one has it, and so on. So on that part, it's a cost that's not necessary. And when you centralize everything, you know all the elements are already in place and you just reuse everything that's there.
Anything else where you see gains for them?
New opportunities. Before, and still the biggest opportunity in the platform, or the reason that they build it, is for print.
Yeah.
Now they're also getting more on the idea of digital output. So for digital banners, digital flyers, email signatures, things like that. And then it's a whole new world that you're integrating to, and budget that's been saved on the integration, or with the integration, that you save your costs on the project management, on everything that we just talked about, but also then on the design costs can now be reused to make new templates for new outputs, and again, get new work with that.
And as I'm more of a tech guy, you can imagine if you started with print, then your images are of high enough resolution also to go to digital, because there you have less resolution necessary. Yeah.
And these things can just happen automatically, because you put in the parameters to have these conversions and to have these outputs. Before, again, you need to make sure that it's in the correct size, that it's RGB, if it's the correct pixel, everything around it. Now you just put those parameters into the platform and into Chile Publish, and that output gets generated automatically.
Let's zoom out a little bit. You're watching this and say, this sounds like too good to be true, but there are still people involved.
Yeah.
Who might be the people or the roles involved in that creative automation?
If we're talking about bigger brands, most of the time it's a lot of different parts of the same company putting together. So normally, if we take, for example, a packaging, we're talking about legal, marketing, the design team itself, and then a couple of other teams. Normally, they're all working in one line. So one part of the team completed it, and they just pushed on to the next one, and so on and so on. And it's in a circle until you have an end result. Now with this, you work in a vertical way, as in all the input and all the people need to be from the start together. And that's the difficult part, because now they all need to share their input at the same time to not have that end result in a longer stage, but already think about that end result at the start.
So a lot of these people that used to give inputs sequentially from the beginning now also have to try to visualize what their input might have as an output.
Yeah.
Because they won't see the output to approve. They have to already try to visualize it.
Yeah. And for each of them, they need to know that what they normally do is protected.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing for all of them, that what they normally do as a job is protected in this automation too, because they will still need to leverage certain elements to get this template working, and in the future maintain it or make new templates.
Yeah.
But for them, it's a scary part always at the start to make sure, if you have these rationalizations, that their part is protected.
But that's the good thing in it. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the tool allows to connect to PIM, DAM systems, any other system that has the content in there, and that content might have been approved already. And of course, then I guess it's your job or your colleagues to say, look, we take the content from that system, and you cannot touch it anymore.
Yeah.
I can imagine, for example, the ingredients on the list, or the legal text that has to be on there.
All the languages.
Yeah, all the languages. These have been pre-approved, so that's why indeed these people are involved in the beginning and not have to reapprove sequentially for every design.
So when they see that the input that they control, it's maintained in a PIM or in another system where they can see, okay, this is the data that needs to be on the label or in the packaging, and it's correct. This is what it needs to be. It's good for them that they know eventually that they don't need to approve every separate label, because the system will make sure that whatever they approved gets fitted in correctly within the brand guidelines and within the standards.
And how would that work? Because I can imagine, since we have different output sizes, there's like the huge digital billboards on Times Square versus tiny ads on a phone or maybe a printed label. I can imagine not all information is equally on every output.
No, but you take the worst case scenarios. That's what we always do in any
You
workflow.
mean the least amount of space.
Yeah. Either it's the least amount of space or the most amount of content that is on the bigger size, just the worst case scenarios. And if you set that up and you combine that in your Chili Smart template, all the things in between are 99% are good to go.
And that's also where you would come in as a partner for a brand to guide them, to advise them on how to tackle that.
Yeah. And also think about a solution that they don't need to maintain too much, that they don't need to constantly adjust. So what we write is certain parts of the code, or even small ideas inside of the functionalities of a Chili Publish template that they don't need to go back in again. It's just the informations down the line that gets pushed in, and all the rest will work like it should.
Yeah.
So in a label, if a new brand is getting added, they don't need to do anything except for add that design of the packaging itself in the sequence, and the rest will still automatically work. And if you have that in place, then we're really talking about automation, because the maintenance isn't that much.
Yeah.
And now the other teams can do other things with their time, or also just do way more things in that same time frame.
Do more stuff with the same amount of people.
Yeah.
Allow creative people to be more creative and less repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
Our tool also needs to be integrated, because indeed there is an existing MarTech stack with DAM PIM systems. Who is the responsible for that part?
Yeah, so a lot of times it works best if you have a specific partner that's really good in integration.
Yeah.
So as in Chili Publish and what we do in Cannes, most of the time we partner up with not only the two of us, but it's a third party that comes with it. And they either help with building a platform and an integration, already have a platform, and integrate those elements that they want into that. But at that time, you have people all around the table that know exactly what they're doing. And that's the moment that you can make sure you build something good, and you have a good foundation to build on for a future, for a full project. Because most of the time, it doesn't start with a full project. You start really small to show the biggest features and the best possibilities for that client.
Let's get back, because indeed a good idea to talk about the proof of concept phase, but let's jump back, because that's where we come in. we as Chile Publish, indeed, we don't do these consulting assignments. That's where we have partners. But we indeed train the partners so that indeed an integrator knows about the concept of a smart templates. In the beginning, we trained you. Now, I guess you guys train each other in the company. The same thing goes for smart templates. We also train the trainer to enable them to make smart templates. That's indeed where we help out. But good point. Let's talk about the proof of concept.
Because the full project is most of the time also a big budget that you need to be that needs to be cleared within your company. A POC, we're talking about something way smaller, but we already give a real life example of what would be happening further down the line. And also, whatever that we build, and it's something that I really strongly believe in and that I do for every project, but we build in a POC is a start for what comes after that, not something that you throw away into the bin and then start completely over again when the budget is approved. No, it's a perfect foundation to build everything that comes after that.
You might not have tackled all the ins and outs, but you take like one example and then go through what we call like a tracer bullet in software development. You start from the design up to the delivery, but for one specific case, maybe like a worst case scenario where you have like one difficult example that you work through the process.
And an example that they use, that they know has a large amount of SKUs. So not something that's really specific and that has a really small amount of output, because it's not that interesting. We take something that they know that has either a lot of sub-brands, a lot of different sizes in packaging, a lot of different language output. All these things, if you then put all these filters together in one smart template, you can have from one template a couple of hundred SKUs, depending on the different filters that you have. And those filters can be really small, as in just a language change can already give a huge amount of output from one smart template.
And then I can imagine that the sponsor at the brand can show that proof of concept to his team, to the boards, and say, look, if we multiply this by a lot more outputs, then we can gain a lot of money in the creative automation department.
And what we also do in that POC is we show them that the amount of time that we invested for that POC. We build a workflow at the same time, how the template or how the integration has been set up. Most of the time, the integration will be becoming bigger, but the foundation there is also the same. What we did with the template will be reused and will be simplified, and any templates that will be best will be built in the future will be built way faster. So on that, we show them, okay, give us now the numbers that you now have at the moment. So the amount of time that you use to build these designs, those packaging, the communication around it, the back and forth, everything, give us a number, and we start calculating. And we did a POC, I think last year, that showed them that after 3 years, what that they invested in the full project just was paying itself completely back in just 3 years' time.
And if you can do that with actual numbers and can prove to the sponsor and to the board, then it's like a no-brainer to go to the next step.
For that project, it was a 60% reduction in the total, not only the time, but also the cost in a year that it cost for those labels to be outputted. The design output to a label, not the packaging cost itself, but the design automation step. And then, because only the first year is the biggest budget and the biggest cost, because afterwards it's only maintenance cost and any additions that you want to do that. So that also gets lower and lower.
So it's typical indeed in an ROI scenario.
So we made them the prediction that in the best case scenario that they paid the full investment back in 3 years. Worst case was 5 to 6 years, I think. But still is an insanely good investment if you see in the amount of time that it only takes.
So maybe to summarize this, the brand owner, they want to communicate to customers in a visual way, visual communication. There's a lot of variations necessary. They need to be automated. That's why if you look at roles, there's something in marketing, a marketing leader that has the idea to automate. I guess also a project manager, or maybe it's the same person. And then there's somebody that's most probably in-house does the creative work and creates the creative templates, the smart templates, could be done externally by a partner. And then, of course, if it needs to be integrated into a marketing stack, a MarTech stack, then there's also somebody who does the integration.
Yeah.
And depending on if you do it externally, then you also need a project manager for some of these steps. But also what you do, you advise brands how to structure that team, on how to set it up so that it can sustain itself in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you know, okay, look, this is a situation as is, and I have these kind of roles in my company, I think then it would be a good start to reach out to a partner like you and say, how much can we gain from the creative automation, and how long would it take to have return on that?
Yeah. So as long as they see an opportunity and then they reach out, from there it can go in all directions. It doesn't need to be or get to a full project, but we will help you look at if there's a possibility to automate.
Okay, so I hope we answered a lot of the questions that we had for the last months. That's why we wanted to tell this story on how to do this at scale for bigger brands. It's not just a few templates, so it's building a team to automate it. Anyway, thank you for all the input, indeed.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to the next several years of partnership.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other stories that we can bring together.
Definitely. Thank you again for having me.
So now would be a good time to pop your questions in the chat. And I see there's already a few questions coming in. I'll go over it and then we can see who can answer them. One of them is, many brands work with large agencies to do graphic design and production. How do both agencies and brands work together? We already mentioned that, but anything else that you want to mention on working together with brands, agencies, how they work together?
Before it was always more of an old school way of working. So now we're kind of entering a new era with the whole automation process. So before you were only thinking about, okay, this is exactly what my brand asks me as a graphic designer to develop. Now designers are also thinking more about what are all the possibilities from that one design. Because a brand also expects more. It's not just that one output format that we have anymore. It's so many different outputs, digital and footprint. So on the way of that, there needs to be a growth and an evolution, and the designers also thinking in a really different way on that part.
And it's also so, if it's like a global brand, somebody on the brand side can prepare the work, and then the local agencies can do they just log in into an online platform.
Yeah. So when the platform and the optimization is in place, before it's always really local. Now around the world, everybody can log in that has a certain access for a certain part or just for everything of that platform, and can either customize themselves the design, where before only a specific designer has the knowledge. Now anybody in the company that's like, okay, yeah, but my colleague is on vacation, no worries, I can still do it because I know where everything is. I can put everything together and then just get the PDF or already straight away send it to printer.
And somebody has restricted what they can do, so they cannot mess up.
Yeah.
Another one, how do brands manage designs that are executed by remote offices? So that aligns a little bit. So how do brands manage designs that are executed by remote offices? We just basically said so it's similar. Another question, who needs to be trained and who does the training? We also talked about it. Like you say, Chili Publish, we train the trainers.
Yeah.
We train people on how to create smart templates. And then in your case, or a design agency, they can learn from that and train each other, but we train the basic stuff. We also train the integrators on how to integrate Chili Publisher as a tool into the MarTech stack. And of course, indeed, you do also part of the training, I guess, more of the process sides on how to implement it into the process.
Yeah, and also the biggest difference is if we already, most of the time we have a knowledge for that client, how the template needs to be built. So we teach also that design team or any desktop publishing part. We really teach them on what we've learned during those builds, and it makes it for them way more easier. You have so much functionalities in Chili, and sometimes it can be overwhelming because it's a lot to learn. Like any new program, if you open up any new thing, it's always a lot to learn at the first time. But we guide them more in the direction of like, okay, these are the tools that we use within Chili Publish. This is a good basic setup already to start from.
Okay. Another question coming in. Security is an issue with a lot of companies. How do you get those checks through? Well, for example, what we did is we as a software vendor, we went through the process of getting certified for ISO 27001. That is information security. So from software development, hosting the platform, making sure that the information is secure. I think that's the same thing. You're also going through the certification phase. So it's important that, I guess, partners and the people you work together with are certified. Means that it's top of mind, that information security should be handled with care.
Yeah. And all that information is always stored in one central place. So the security is also handled there. As a consultant, we sign any NDA or any security process that's necessary. We follow everything through, but eventually everything is securely maintained in one place. So that also saves a lot of stress and worries about that.
Yeah, it's a good combination of good common sense and being certified. And once you're certified, also train your people, follow up on issues. I think that were the questions that we had coming in. If there's any more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, Thomas, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining into the webinar, and see you on the next one.